Hey! Have you ever looked at a cockroach and thought, ugh, that's gross. What if they were the size of a dog? Here's the bad news, there used to be worse. And let's be honest, the world used to be a much scarier place. The giant creatures I'm about to tell you about used to rule the earth, but fortunately for us, or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, they're extinct. So why did they disappear? Was it climate change, competition for survival, or did nature simply decide to cut out a few nightmares? We're going to take a look at some ancient creatures you won't believe ever existed, from giant millipedes to an ape the size of an SUV. You ready? Like this video, and here we go. Arthropleura, the giant millipede that could have ruined camping forever. Ladies and gentlemen, gather around. The first nightmare I bring to you today is none other than Arthropleura, a creature so large and terrifying that it makes the average cockroach look like a cute little pet. Picture this, you're taking a nice, peaceful walk in the prehistoric woods, admiring the lush greenery of the Carboniferous period. Birds are chirping. Oh wait, no birds existed yet, but whatever. Suddenly, the bushes rustle, and out slithers a 9-foot-long millipede. That's right, 9 freaking feet! That's the length of a kayak, a thing humans use to float on water, except this guy's using it to crawl through your nightmares. Now, you'd think a millipede the size of a small car would be some kind of monstrous predator, right? Wrong. Turns out this big boy was a vegan. Yep, all it wanted in life was to munch on some rotten leaves, moss, and decaying wood. Kind of like that one friend who always insists on eating gluten-free. Not scary at all, just inconveniently large. But before you start thanking evolution for wiping this thing off the planet, let's talk about how it died. No, it wasn't some heroic battle against a T-Rex, wrong era, but hey, that would be cool. Scientists think it either couldn't handle the heat of climate change, relatable, or got outcompeted for food by some early reptiles. Also relatable, considering how I fight for the last slice of pizza. Oh, and the best part? We've never found its head. That's right. No one on this planet has ever seen an Arthropleura's face. Maybe it had no head. Maybe it had a face so horrifying that fossils just refuse to exist. We may never know, and I'm kinda okay with that. So yeah, let's all take a moment to appreciate the fact that this thing is extinct, because if it weren't, camping trips would require full body armor and a flamethrower. Jaekelopterus, the giant sea scorpion that would ruin your beach day. All right, let's move on to the next creature on our list, Jaekelopterus, a prehistoric sea scorpion so massive, it will make you rethink your life choices before even dipping a toe in the ocean. Welcome to the Devonian period, where this 9-foot-long monstrosity was out there, body-slamming fish and straight-up curb-stomping other sea scorpions for fun. Yeah, it wasn't just big. It had 2 massive serrated claws designed for one thing, grabbing, crushing, and tearing apart anything dumb enough to get close. Think of it as a prehistoric crab with anger issues. And here's the real kicker. It wasn't even a real scorpion. That's right. Jaekelopterus is actually closer to spiders and horseshoe crabs than the little desert scorpions we know today, which means if you already hate spiders, congratulations, their ancestors were the size of a freaking smart car and swam in the ocean. So yeah, let's all take a moment to appreciate modern tiny scorpions, because at least they won't grab you mid-swim and turn you into a prehistoric sushi platter. Megalodon, when a great white shark is just a goldfish. Are you afraid of sharks? Well, good news. Megalodon is extinct. Bad news? It was real. And it was the size of a double-decker bus, meaning if it were still around, you could go for a casual swim and run into a flesh-covered freight train with teeth. Megalodon was basically a great white shark on steroids, like if Godzilla went to gym. Not only was it bigger, but it never ran out of teeth. That's right. Throughout its life, it could replace up to 40,000 teeth. Imagine losing a tooth and just growing a new one. Dentists would be out of business. And the bite force, 10 times stronger than a great white. If Megalodon woke up feeling snacky, it wouldn't go for a small fish. It would just swallow a whole whale instead. And if you think you could outswim it, think again. This beast could hit 20 miles per hour, 32 kilometers per hour, which is faster than your sprint speed when you get a "we need to talk" text from your mom. But then climate change happened, whales got smarter, and smaller sharks outcompeted it. Result? The ocean's mob boss went out of business, which is probably for the best. Otherwise, the Titanic wouldn't have been the only thing sinking into the ocean. Titanoboa, when a log can squeeze you to death. Have you ever looked at a giant floating log in the river and thought, oh, just a harmless piece of wood? Congratulations, you just died. because if you lived 60 million years ago in Colombia, that log might have been Titanoboa, the biggest snake to ever exist, stretching 43 feet, 13 meters long, basically a school bus with muscles. Titanoboa didn't need venom. No, instead it just hugged you to death, not in a cozy grandma way, but in a I'm going to turn your rib cage into a smoothie kind of way. It could crush a giant crocodile, so simple, like you crush a bag of chips. And guess what? It wasn't just slithering around on land. Oh no, it was also a top-tier swimmer. Imagine going for a relaxing swim and realizing that Log is alive and wants to murder you. But then the earth cooled down, modern crocodiles took over, and Titanoboa lost its king of the jungle title. Now we're stuck with smaller snakes that can't even swallow a Toyota whole. What a loss for nature, really. Dunkleosteus, the underwater tank that could bite you in half. Welcome to the Devonian period, aka the Age of Fish. Yep, a time when fish weren't just swimming around minding their own business, but actually decided, hey, what if we were terrifying? Enter Dunkleosteus, a prehistoric fish that was basically a swimming tank, growing up to 33 feet, 10 meters long, and weighing 4 tons, bigger than an SUV and heavier than an African elephant. But here's the fun part. Dunkleosteus didn't have teeth. Yeah, you heard me, no teeth. While other predators were flexing their sharp fangs like they were in a Colgate commercial, Dunkleosteus just went, screw teeth, I got 2 giant cleavers for a face. Instead of normal teeth, it had 2 massive bone plates that worked like a built-in guillotine, crushing anything unlucky enough to get in its way. And because it was the unchallenged boss of the ocean, Dunkleosteus ate literally everything. Sharks, smaller fish, bigger fish, and yes, even other Dunkleosteus. That's right, this bad boy was one of the first creatures on Earth to invent cannibalism, something humans later copied and called survival reality shows. But then the ocean changed, oxygen levels dropped, food became scarce, and Dunkleosteus got the boot from the top of the food chain. A tragic ending? Maybe. But hey, at least it lived its best life without teeth and still dominated the ocean. Therizinosaurus. Prehistoric Wolverine, but a much, much stronger version. Welcome to prehistoric Mongolia, where dinosaurs ruled the world and had zero clue that one day they'd get wiped out by a space rock and turn into modern day chicken nuggets. And in this land of giant reptiles, we had Therizinosaurus, the dinosaur with the longest claws in history. Picture this, claws over 3 feet long. That's longer than a freaking katana. You'd think this thing was a savage killer, slicing up prey like a prehistoric samurai? Nope, Therizinosaurus was a vegetarian. That's right. It had Wolverine's claws but used them for gardening. Talk about the biggest waste of the ultimate weapon ever. And here's the best part, when scientists first dug up its fossils in the 55s, they thought it was a giant sea turtle. Yeah, someone saw massive Freddy Krueger claws and went, yup, that's definitely a turtle. A plus logic right there. In the end, Therizinosaurus met its doom when the asteroid came crashing down. Not the greatest ending, but hey, at least it never had to worry about breaking a nail while snacking on leaves. Hallucigenia, when fossils can hurt your eyes. Welcome to the Cambrian explosion, the time when life on Earth went full Picasso mode and every creature decided to be as weird as possible. And among these freaks of nature, we got Hallucigenia, a prehistoric factory defect. Seriously, what even is this thing? A worm? A porcupine? A rejected hot dog with 7 pairs of noodle legs and 7 spiky back needles? Yep, that's Hallucigenia. Insomniac? Just stare at this thing. You'll either be cured or haunted forever. When scientists first dug up its fossil, they spent decades just figuring out which end was the head and which was the butt. Imagine being confused for a rear end for millions of years. Ouch. Despite being only 2 inches long, Hallucigenia survived its nightmare world with spikes and flexible moves. Yep, it was Earth's first ninjutsu champion. The result? Still extinct. But at least it taught us one valuable lesson. Being ugly unique doesn't mean you get to live forever. Deinosuchus, the alligator that ate dinosaurs. Picture this, you're chilling by the river, watching a crocodile float lazily on the water, blinking at you like it's saying, hey, come for a swim! And then, boom, it turns out that ain't no regular gator. It's Deinosuchus, a bus-sized prehistoric nightmare. And congratulations, you're now its afternoon snack. Deinosuchus was the worst neighbor in the Cretaceous, rocking a 5-foot skull, 1-foot long teeth, and a bite force of 23,000 newtons. Yep, that's enough to crush a dinosaur like a cheap soda can. While modern crocs settle for fish and deer, Deinosuchus had a T-Rex-sized appetite and probably flossed with fossils afterward. How did it hunt? By lurking underwater, with just its creepy little eyes peeking out like it's spying on you from a hotel peephole, then bam, launching out faster than you can delete text when your mom grabs your phone. Some scientists believe it even threw hands, or jaws, with Mosasaurus. And I'd bet those fights were straight up prehistoric Godzilla battles. If Deinosuchus were still around today, say goodbye to swimming, paddleboarding, and even Titanic wouldn't have needed an iceberg to go down. Anomalocaris, the OG ocean nightmare. People often think sharks are the kings of the ocean, but nope. 500 million years ago, the real apex predator was a giant shrimp. Yeah, I know, sounds like a joke, but Anomalocaris was basically a supersized mutant lobster, except instead of sitting in a seafood boil, it was the reason everything else in the ocean had trust issues. This bad boy was 3 feet long, not huge by today's standards, but back then, it was the Godzilla of the sea. It had 2 flexible claws that could snatch prey faster than you can switch tabs when your boss walks by. And don't even get me started on its mouth, a terrifying circular blender of doom that turned anything unlucky enough to get caught into fish smoothie. Oh, and guess what? It had 16,000 lenses in its eyes. That's right. This thing could see through water better than any overpriced waterproof camera. And I guarantee if it were alive today, it would be an absolute beast at FPS games. Before sharks or mosasaurs showed up, Anomalocaris was running the whole ocean scene, terrorizing everything from Canada to China. If there were an award for best ocean predator before Jaws was cool, this thing would have taken the gold and laughed at all the lesser sea creatures. So, yeah, if you ever dreamed of having a pet lobster, congratulations, you just found your worst nightmare in seafood form. Gigantopithecus, when King Kong went vegan. And finally, let's head to Asia, somewhere in Vietnam, China, and India, about 2 million years ago in the Pleistocene to meet a gorilla. I mean, we're talking about a 3-meter tall, 500-kilogram, muscle-bound gorilla that looked like King Kong after an intense training session with The Rock. Meet Gigantopithecus, the biggest ape to ever exist. But don't let its size fool you. This guy wasn't a bloodthirsty beast. Nope, it was a full-on vegan. That's right, instead of hunting, it snacked on bamboo, fruit, and plants all day, basically living the life of a muscular, oversized panda. It could snap bamboo in half with its bare hands, meaning if Guinness record existed back then, it'd win the fastest bamboo breaker category. Then, around 100,000 years ago, nature decided to hit the unsubscribe button. Forests shrank, food ran low, and some scientists believe our ancestors might have turned Gigantopithecus into prehistoric barbecue. Yep, you heard that right. Homo erectus may have hunted this beast, proving that humans have been obsessed with oversized meals long before McDonald's was a thing. Oh, and for all you Bigfoot believers, some people think they might be Gigantopithecus's long-lost relative. But that's about as legit as believing aliens work at Area 51. No real proof? But hey, believe what makes you happy. And that, my friends, concludes our wild trip through prehistoric nightmares you'd never believe actually existed. From vegan King Kong to murder shrimp, Earth's history is basically a rejected sci-fi script. But hey, at least we weren't around back then, because let's be real, we wouldn't have made it past breakfast. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to make sure you don't miss part 2 until I make it. See you soon.